All right, you're good to go.
Alright guys, we decided to launch an evolution novel. We try to define prevention, defensive dialogue, which is from the tree to the mark. Our card would say and then first part of our article, of our subject is going to be the sample secret of the Apple market. As you can see, our decided to put on the table, a quote from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, which who is actually he was a pilot, a very important pilot, and he said, "Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing to add, but when there is nothing left to take." Pretty interesting the case of the Apple marketing techniques, because the CEB research tried to come up with the fact that whenever you do any marketing or technique for to promote products, you have to be able to you have to avoid to be loud and flashy in any type of advertising method, because it's not going to be helpful, or it's not going to be successful, because you will have to do too much or more than you're supposed to do. This next point of the marketing strategy of Apple is based on the fact that helping the customer trust information, learn about the products, product way the option are the three ways to create an effective marketing technique. This is the next. Yes. Just to mean that. Meaning that. Okay, so let's say the marketing strategy of Apple is basically trying to show us that we don't really need to do anything loud, flashy, or anything exaggerated to promote the product. So they decide to go really simplistic. They decide to come up with a strategy which is actually bring Apple on the market to the success they have. So overall, what I can say about it is that Apple is based its strategy marketing on the simplicity of the product and the simplicity of the promotion.
Jobs said that no one wants a stylist because it will just end up lost, and it is reported that Apple's newest iPad is going to come with a stylus. Next is a bigger phone. Steve Jobs said tablet apps. And a year after he died, Apple introduced the iPad mini, which is by far the best-selling iPad in the company's lineup. Next is a lifelike software. Steve Jobs wanted the iPhone software to mimic real life. For example, the bookstore featured a wooden shelf, and the notes pad was made to look like a legal pad. And after his death, Apple fired their software executive and introduced iOS 7, which did away with those real-life ties. Lastly, in 1997, Jobs ended Apple's philanthropic giving programs to bring Apple back to profitability, but never reinstated even after Apple posted some of the biggest profits ever reported by a public company. In 2011, the new CEO, Tim Cook, brought back Apple's donation matching program.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a little more detail on the iPad mini and why Steve Jobs ever really wanted to make it. He was quoted saying that the idea of an iPad mini, they would never make one because they would be too big to compete with tablets and too big to compete with iPhones and too small to compete with tablets, so they would just kind of be lost in the middle. And that they were worthless because the screens were too small to tab, flick, and zoom. Then Steve Jobs died on October 5th, 2011. Almost exactly a year after he passed away, Apple released the iPad mini, which is exactly what Steve Jobs said Apple would never do. Despite what Jobs said, though, Apple was really successful with the iPad mini, and they're now on their third generation of iPad minis. The third generation was released just this year, or in 2014 in October. Not a whole lot has changed between the iPad mini and the iPad mini 3, though. There's just a little bit better. It's got a little bit better battery, faster processing, a little bit better Retina, and then it has the fingerprint technology that the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus have. Another thing about the iPad mini, like she said, with the iPhones getting bigger, they're almost like, I feel like the iPhones are getting to be like the iPad. They're starting to get as big as the tablet.
Now let's look at the marketing side of Apple company. The factors that contribute to purchasing behavior. First of all, pricing. Second, product and post-purchase behavior. There is a few influence that influence the consumer behavior. There are social influence, opinion leaders, perceptual screens, and subliminal perceptions. I have an example for this. Let's imagine there's two companies. They have the same type of car. They are suitable for domestic use and private use. Both cars and trucks both have the same view of safety features. The performance are also similar, but there's one problem. The pricing of car from company A is $20,000. The car from company B is $50,000. Both have the same features, but the price and this double. So, by our view, we think that the car from company A will have better sale. And if there's the company's manager that they are having business in transporting, well, I propose that they will probably consider company's A car better than company B's car. They will save a lot of cost. And this also the same to Apple company. When a company would want to have technology in their company, probably they will consider some company with a similar product, but a cheap price. And let's see for the next one. Segmentation and targeting. Well, in marketing, we have to segment up and target, and have target in for products. And in Apple company, they do group people and or do group consumers. and they do make target group in marketing of the product, but the pricing of the product is very important here. The price of the product will set the value of the product. Well, to achieve that, there will not be underpricing of product and do not overprice product. If the quality and durability of the product is not equal to the price, consumer will lose their faith and lose their loyalty to the product. And of course, in marketing, there's the idea of competition. Well, competition do exist in marketing unless the business is model. And consumers will charge the type of product they use from one to another until they are satisfied. And for this, technology will change very, very fast. And for this, in less than 50 years, in exact, it's actually 42 years, the cell phone or the mobile phone that changed from this size into this size. That's the power of technology. And this is sales of smartphone globally. They are including Samsung, Apple Company, HTC, Motorola, BlackBerry, Nokia, Sony Ericsson, and a lot more. As you can see, sales of smartphones are getting higher and higher when time goes by. And for that, iPhone sales are going slowly. Why? We will let consumers decide. And for the next one, iPad sales has dropped. Not very much, but it's dropping. This is because of competition and of course pricing of the product. In global, 80% of the smartphones that are sold or sold are run on Android, not iOS or not others, because of pricing problem. And for global tablet market share, Apple companies still have that major power, but it's getting smaller and smaller since Android is getting faster and faster and higher. And as for conclusion, well, the marketing way of Apple company is good, but there's way or there's space for them to be better and better for them improvement. And for that, pricing is a very important aspect in marketing. Thank you.
I like the fact that you actually introduced every member of your group before you talked. Some groups have not even introduced the members of their group, so I like that. With regards to the pricing issues that you brought up, do you think that Apple is viewed as sort of a luxury brand, as opposed? I think they are in terms of computers. Because why do people pay the amount of money that they'll pay for an Apple computer? It's you know. Yeah, that's really a product of the fact that the market share that they have is so small compared to the Windows platform that hackers won't write code to go after the platform. And so I think that's more a reflection of what's happening out there in terms of consumer use than it is actually that Apple is so safe. But I think they are viewed very much as being a luxury type status symbol. If you have a MacBook, that's status compared to having just a plain old Windows notebook or something like that. With regard to the things that Steve Jobs said he would never do you think that Apple has reached a point where they're no longer being or introducing disruptive technological changes and they're just introducing incremental changes? Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good.
I don't think they're making any big differences. They're just adding little small things.
Yeah. I mean,
They're not coming out with anything extravagant.
yeah. The iPad Mini is not. It's not a huge technological revolution, right?
It's not like everybody's like, oh, I have to go out and get that because it's better than my iPad Mini.
Mm-hmm.
More people who don't have it
All right, very good, thank you. Number 15. Who has number 15? Oh, there we go. Do you all have a paper for me? Okay, all right, that's fine.
We are going to be talking about the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is the first new product category for the company since the launch of the iPad in 2010. For Apple to be successful in this unfamiliar market, the watch will have to appeal not only as a watch, but also as a fashion statement. There are 3 different collections: the Apple Watch Sport, and the Apple Watch Edition. These watches range in price from $349 to $17,000. Apple claims that there is a watch for everyone.
The issue Apple's had with their watches manufacturers that have a hard time making the watches, and the battery life is not good because of charging to
Apple iWatch. I mean, the Apple Watch, whatever. Now that we've seen it, we've all been dazzled by an obscene amount of beautiful slow motion close-up shots. It's impossible not to have lustful gadget cravings for this thing. That's where I come in. Old Donald Bell here. It's going to be the cold shower you need to clean that Apple Watch from your brain. Let's count down 5 reasons you shouldn't buy it. Starting off at number 5, it's expensive. Starts at $349, and you know that's the model you don't want. Once you start decking it out with a leather watch band and a bigger screen, you've probably got a $500 watch on your arm. If I'm dropping that kind of cash, this thing better shoot lasers, like the deadly kind. At number 4, it's iPhone only. Not only will it not work properly without a phone, but it won't work with any phone aside from an iPhone 5 or above. So now you're paying $350 for a watch that essentially prevents you from switching to Android. It's brilliant. Coming in at number 3, the battery. Unlike those dumb old watches that have been refined for centuries, your smartwatch requires daily charging from a funky proprietary cable, and just like your phone, daily charging means that battery will inevitably wear out. Your overpriced smartwatch probably has a lifespan of about 5 to 10 years, while a $50 dumb watch could probably outlive your grandchildren. Progress. At number 2, your phone. You know, that thing you've been using to figure out what time it is for the past 10 years. Did you know that it also takes and receives calls, text messages, emails, gives you directions, and tracks your health, plays music? It does it all, and it fits conveniently in your pocket. If you're feeling retro, go buy yourself a Casio. Now, before we get to the number 1 reason not to buy an Apple Watch, how about we get to one great reason why you should buy it? Nerd fashion! You'll be the king of the early adopting nerds, and unlike a cool new phone that spends most of its time hidden away in your pocket, the watch is designed to be a flashy emblem of your nerd pride that you can admire all day long. And don't worry, there's no way you'll be ridiculed like those Google Glass people. It's not like this obviously calls attention to your sense of superiority, your disposable income, or a lack of common sense. It's a totally different thing. Alright, and now, the number 1 reason you should just say no to the Apple Watch, the Apple Watch 2. Remember how the iPhone went from a toy to a 3G phone with real GPS? Remember how the iPad 2 was about half the thickness of the original? History has shown us over and over that Apple is exceedingly great at making second-generation products. So just wait. So there you go, 5 reasons to save your money and skip the Apple Watch. For more information on smartwatches and all manner of wearables, head over to the wearable tech section of CNET, and more top 5s from me, top5.cnet.com. I'm Donald Bell, thanks for watching.
The smartwatch technology is a big evolutionary leap forward for wearable technology. But what makes it so amazing is the software capabilities, the networking ability, the ability for the watch to talk to the phone, to talk to the cloud, and to talk to other devices. This means it can do things like literally open a door using its near-field communication to maybe flirt with, someone across the bar. These devices aren't just for telling time. It's going to be a business tool to have employees use biometric data to lock them into secure facilities or into hardware systems or the ability to make payments. But there's going to be social consequences. The privacy factor, that there's a lot of data about myself that's going to be being gathered by either third parties like Apple or Google or possibly by my employer. One of the features of these smartwatches that is seldom mentioned because it has a very high creep factor to it is that there is what they call a remote camera. And if you think that Google Glass is a creepy way for people to walk around and video you, there's going to be a lot of people very distrustful of those who walk into certain environments wearing a smart device. But all in all, I'm very pro technology. I think that it requires some leaders to come out and say, this is the right way to use the technology, this is the way that we can use it as a benefit to ourselves, to business, and that we must find ways to mitigate the social inconveniences and the privacy concerns to make sure that these tools are used for good and not evil.
I'm going to talk about the previous marketing strategies of Apple. Apple really hasn't felt the need to respond to the critics because almost all their products have been outstanding and have succeeded. And then also, whenever Apple makes a product, they usually don't halfway do it. Whenever you look at the designs and how the glass meets the metal, if there is, some of it's all glass, they really pay attention to every single detail whenever they do make a product like this one, the 17 karat gold, and it's strong. It's nice enough to wear in any situation. It's also strong enough to wear in any situation.
We'll briefly talk about some of the competition between some of the Swiss watch companies and this new Apple Watch. The Apple Watch, it's a small threat to some of the Swiss industry, but it's not a significant threat because, I mean, the wearer of like a Rolex or a Breguet or Audemars Piguet, they're not buying it for its functionality. It's more of a status symbol. So those brands haven't really reacted to the Apple Watch at all. But some entry-level brands like Swatch, which holds the largest market share in entry-level, they feel kind of threatened by the watch. So they have released their own line of smartwatches to compete with Apple, and also two other brands, Tag and Montblanc. They have announced that they're going to be competing as well. Tag actually is going to partner with Google and Intel to design their watch, and it's going to be released at the end of the year. And they also say that theirs are going to have GPS. And Swatch is going to also use near-field communication, just like the Apple Watch. And some brands are failing to react, so they could lose some of their market share. But ironically, the Apple Watch could be to their benefit because it's going to add new watch aficionados to the market, and then in the future, they could add a Swiss piece to their collection. And if they don't react, some of these companies are going to see the effect of the Apple Watch. It's going to be to the detriment of their company.
Some other marketing issues with the Apple Watch is that watches aren't necessarily needed these days. Most people have a phone, and if you ask them what time it is, they'll pull up the phone and tell you what time it is. And then most people who are going to buy a watch are going to go for something like he discussed. They're going to go for the status symbol and something that's going to last a lot longer than an Apple Watch. The iPhone, you get an iPhone, it'll last you 2 or 3 years before it starts to wear down. Some of the Rolexes can last you 50 years, you can pass them on, and that's a big plus for some people. If Apple wants to be successful in marketing their watch, they're going to have to market this something more than just a timepiece. I think the apps are going to be probably the biggest for consumers buying the Apple Watch.
So in 2013, the Apple Watch came out. It was the first smartwatch to be introduced to the market. And back then, it was compatible with most smartphones like Android, iPhones, and it could receive alerts and text messages that never get received as a phone. So since then, Motorola, LG, Sony, Samsung, they've all came up with their own ideas for a smartwatch, and Apple was the last one to actually unveil their idea for it. And the features, so far most of the features in the smartwatches are all pretty similar. They all receive text messages, alerts from Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, new features. So the Apple Watch is going to run on the iOS system. So it's, like I said earlier, it's just going to be compatible with iPhones. So you can use Android or anything like that. And like what he was saying, that it might have the opportunity to use apps. So that kind of what sets it apart from every other smartwatch that's on the market right now.
Okay, so and then kind of going off what the man said in the first video, is Apple has a history of coming out with second generation products that are big advancements on their first one. So some of the future things that the Apple Watch can have is They ended up scratching health sensors on the current one just because they weren't ready to completely function at the level Apple wanted them to. But at some point in the future, they hope to add them, and they could have things such as being able to record blood pressure, the user's oxygen levels, the user's heart rate, and the amount of stress the user has off of that. And it will sync to your phone, which could eventually sync to your healthcare provider and stuff, and create an all-around greater profile for your healthcare provider to work off of.
And kind of in conclusion, talk about the brand loyalty and some marketing issues. The Apple Watch Edition costs up to $17,000. An average Rolex, anywhere from 48,000, but most of them are more than $10,000. I think the target market for the Edition watch is kind of older people that, like we said, they're looking for more of a status symbol, kind of a focal point of their outfit. They're not really concerned with the technology of the Apple Watch, and I think that is a huge marketing issue. And people that have the kind of money, like $17,000 to spend on a watch, are more elderly people. I don't think that Apple's going to have much success buying or selling their new $17,000 watch to those kind of people.
You all touched on the competition. I read an interesting article, and I wonder to know if you think this is true. Rolex has said that they're not at all concerned about the Apple Watch. They are concerned about one area, and it has to do with your generation. And it's the fact that historically, for men, the only jewelry they would really wear was a watch. And your generation is much more receptive to wearing all kinds of things. And so they're more concerned about the fact that men are now wearing rings and bracelets and things like that. And they view that as a bigger competition than the Apple Watch. Do you think that's true?
Not necessarily. I'd rather wear a watch than a ring or a bracelet.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see that being more of a threat than an Apple Watch.
Okay. Do you think that there's some status to wearing an Apple Watch? That's going to be, do you think they're going to be able to compete in that status symbol just because it's $17,000? If you can buy it for $350, why would you pay $17,000? Or does the brand, that price range, that's a huge variance in the price range. There's not a huge variance in the Rolex price range, right? They're fairly expensive.
The thing with watches is what I think is brand recognition is a huge thing with their customer. A customer is more, like, even if it's not Rolex, like say they like Breitling, someone might have a whole collection of Breitlings or something. And I mean, are people who are into watches really going to want to collect a bunch of Apple Watches? Being as they, like they said, there's going to be Apple Watch 2, Apple Watch 3. Probably not. It doesn't hold the same type of collectible value.
Okay.
It also goes along with the advancement of technology too. Most people, the younger generation, they're not going to understand, like, they're not going to know anything like Rolex or anything like that because it shows you some technology in phones. They'll know the name of the Apple, so they'll be more inclined to go with the Apple Watch.
Okay. All right. There was a question.
Apple will be trying to market to the businessmen, one of the business owners, in turn replace Rolex with the Apple Watch to show, place it as a status symbol. So instead of having Rolex to show how successful you are, trying to do with the Apple Watch instead, and try to compete with everybody having that kind of technology to add to that symbol.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a hard market to break into. I mean,
I would say that you should use your phone.
yeah, I mean, you've got the problem with trying to go head to head with something like Rolex or Tag is that you've got, a 200-year history of marketing and brand recognition that goes along with that. I'm not sure you get that with an Apple Watch. And then the durability issue is one to be pointed out. You know, Rolex is something that you hand down, you know, from generation to generation. So, yeah, I don't know. Interesting. All right, very good. Good presentation. Number 16.
Melanie. I'm Kristen.
And our group decided to present specifically this presentation is about social media for e-commerce business. Because first of all, social networks create marketing channel now like they roles that have the equal level of relevance and vertical sales of social networks over the past like 5-4 years. Plus, by doing this logic, we analyzed different data and dynamics of traffic growth from social networks to different online stores and like commercial companies. We saw that traffic through social network to online stores is a gap. Sometimes just like several times more. So people prefer use like great level of visibility of social networks not by some. Plus, in 2015, we live in online stores and commercial sites have owned about $3 billion in total sales of all kinds of stuff. And this result is like roughly 70% higher than the same result 2 years earlier in the first growth. So because of this, we can predict that future sales development strategies for online stores and related company will be more focused on social networks as well as traffic from social networks to online stores. And my colleagues will continue on this topic.
So, lately I've heard a lot that they're saying that social media is new and it's not necessarily new. So here's a quick timeline. In 2004, Facebook expanded to other universities besides Harvard. In December 2004, Facebook reached 1 million members. YouTube was created in 2005. In 2006, Twitter was launched. Facebook launched their news feed in 2007. They released the iPhone with apps for using social media. 2008, it became the most popular site on social media. 2009, Twitter became the third highest ranking social network site from their spot at 22. And 2010, Pinterest was launched. 2012, Instagram began. So social media is more than a decade old if we're really looking at the timeline.
So for e-commerce business, establishing a presence is the first step to effectiveness, but a presence in each of these means something different for each outlet. Like Facebook has likes, shares, paid advertising, online shopping, and hashtags through business pages, while Twitter is about followers,
Just because these many social media outlets exist doesn't mean businesses should use all of them. According to Rollinger, it is far better to manage a small number of social media networks and do them well. So in other words, prioritize. E-commerce businesses that do not have the resources to have a strong presence of all of the social media outlets should prioritize based on their product or service and its target market. Research and prioritize based on the information found. Like surveys. Surveys like the demographics of social media users is a great marketing tool to figure out information about the social media outlets to better have businesses prioritize and choose which social media outlet is most effective for their e-commerce businesses. And according to Rollinger, all e-commerce businesses should be on Facebook because the sheer number of users, which is, according to the table, Facebook has the most user interest. And also the table shows the target, what their service appeals to the target audience. And so this will be a great tool to use to prioritize your outlets in e-commerce business.
Okay, among most of the common mistakes that many companies make is thinking that a presence on social media platforms such as Facebook or Twitter is enough to attract customers. I'm going to talk about socializing is the primary reason that most people choose to participate in social media networks, and shopping is secondary. So if you think about a brick and mortar store, without socialization, it would tank because if you visited a brick and mortar store, no one spoke to you, and none of your friends spoke about it, you probably wouldn't know about it when you go there. Social media sharing activities provide clear evidence that your products are worthwhile. You can see that through the social media and what people are posting. There are 3 strategies to make consumers socialize in commerce. Promising followers of a coupon or even hosting a contest where a prize is involved is a way to get people to socialize. And inclusivity by posting new or incoming products or services the business is offering that no one may know about without social media. And they're most likely to share that with others. Transparency is huge, but the failure to be transparent by including like reviews on social media could drive away businesses because they're not going to know about the product and maybe what's wrong with it or how great it is.
The best outcome, social media should be integrated with other forms of marketing because at the end of the day, for these e-commerce businesses, a profit would be the end goal for most e-commerce. And so when you're using social media as a marketing strategy, you have to turn your followers, likes, shares, and reviews into a profit. Integrated marketing is where most e-commerce businesses are missing the mark of effectiveness using social media. The Cross-Channel Marketing Report of 2014, I believe, 67% of all businesses made it a priority to integrate across channels. Only 19 can actually see the financial results of conducting cross-channel integrated marketing. So to integrate using social media, it's best to link all your posts and products back to the e-commerce site where people can purchase. It's also more and more third-party companies are reaching out to turn in things like Instagram and Twitter into a profit for e-commerce business. Like I Like to Know It is one on Instagram. If you like the picture, it sends you an email with multiple purchasing opportunities. And Stripify is another third-party for integrating. You can buy something on Twitter simply with just a specific hashtag. You can also conduct sales directly on your social media outlets using emails and stuff like PayPal. Another way to integrate using social media is getting information from your consumers. Just something as simple as an email can open up a lot of doors for marketing.
To put presence is not enough to be effective. You should prioritize for the target market.
socialize, promotion, be inclusive, and integrate the product. Any questions? Thank you.
The average age on Facebook has increased. Why do you think that is?
So the average age on
Yeah, the average age of the user has increased. When Facebook first got started, it was primarily, well, you had to have an EDU account. When they launched it outside of the Ivy League, right? You had to, the requirement was that you had to have an email account that ended with an EDU, and then they opened it up to everybody. And now, I mean, so that obviously increases the age, and you open it up to everybody, but why do you think the average age on Facebook has increased? And among your generation, it's decreasing in terms of the number of views. Why do you think that is?
I think the biggest reason it's increased in the older ages is probably because of things like the iPhone and the Android, where you can use Facebook through your phone. Most people don't have flip phones anymore, they have iPhones. So older generations are able to use Facebook more easily than just on a computer, whereas our generation, we're always on computers. So I think that's one reason that it's grown through older generations.
Okay.
And
You think
plus,
it's,
and plus, I believe that because plus the younger generation versus our grandparents, they are old and use like that stuff because, like, for instance, my grandmother, she's 80, almost 9, and she uses PC because of me. I mean, like it's basically because the younger generation comes for us for them.
do you think that that leads to a non-coolness factor? When your parents start getting on it and creeping on your Facebook?
I think
Sometimes.
maybe for like kids in high school, I think by the time you're in college, you aren't worried about being cool as far as your parents go. My parents are like cool people. So.
Okay. All right. Very good. And our last, we have just one group left, is that right? 17? Last but not least.
Hello everybody, my name is Ali.
I'm Gary. And I'm Kobe, and we're going to be talking about the current issues with McDonald's in marketing.
As you guys know already, McDonald's is one of the biggest fast food in the US. It was founded in 1940 in California, and it has like more than 36,000 locations worldwide. So we know that we can say that McDonald's is a successful business. However, those past 2 years has been quite difficult for McDonald's. The key problem with McDonald's is stated as follows. We got like no new item on the menu, so we got no innovation. The second one is the pricing. The third factor is the nutritional value to customers. Then we got competition because McDonald's is not in a monopolistic position. So we got competition and then advertisement.
All right, so like you said, they really haven't, McDonald's really hasn't come out with a new breakthrough item since 2003. They had the McGriddle. That was basically their last big item that everybody started to latch onto. Not like their competitors, at least like Taco Bell, you have the Doritos Locos Taco that people were starting to like, and then Burger King, you have the chicken fries, and just we listed some off that they've tried recently. The McRib, the chicken McBites we saw a couple summers ago, those are gone still. And then we even had saw that they tried to make lobster once, and that obviously had a stayed. So, yeah.
McDonald's has a lot of competition, obviously. Not all of them are brand new. They have a bunch of old competitors, kind of like Burger King. And but they do have new ones. Subway is relatively new. Wendy's, Whataburger, Taco Bell, like he said, they have the new Locos Tacos. And like Five Guys, they're pretty new. In-N-Out Burger. And all these companies bring something new and something else that McDonald's doesn't. So if McDonald's wants to remain successful, they're going to have to continue to bring new items and find new ways to innovate their menu and to stay on top of the best menu.
Okay. As a result of what I've said before, McDonald's sells jobs significantly. And even worse, there's the CEO Thompson resigned. So all this is to show you guys how much trouble McDonald's has been through those past 2 years. If you guys have any questions from me,
What do you think? What do you think McDonald's? I mean, they have nowhere to go but down. They have the vast majority of the market share. So you mentioned things like In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is regionally located, and you don't have them everywhere. McDonald's is worldwide, and so are they really in that much trouble, or is it just a product of the fact that, you know, there's nowhere, it's impossible to build more market share at this point because they are so huge. So for example, if I start feeding one of you, that you're all extraordinarily thin, a high-fat diet, you know, you're going to put on weight fairly quickly if we start, you know, pumping lots of calories into you. But at some point, and when I was married, my wife liked these shows, like the morbidly obese shows, you know, that they have to get these people out. You can't gain any more weight. You're not going to put on more pounds after you're 350 pounds already, right? And so that's kind of where McDonald's is at. They're the 350-pound gorilla in the room, and they have nowhere to go but sort of down. But they're still enormously popular. And why do you think that is?
I think it's just because, like you said in one of the lectures, you said that once you go to McDonald's, you know like what you're going to get, what the same taste anywhere, any McDonald's you go to. I think part of the reason why they're so big is just brand loyalty and just because it's convenient.
Yeah, and it's consistent, and they're clean. You know, compared to a lot of the franchises. How many of you have been into a Dairy Queen lately? Texas loves Dairy Queens, for example. And every time I go in, they're disgusting. They're filthy. I don't know why they eat there. McDonald's, at least, they're fairly consistent. They're clean. They've got clean restrooms. They've got a consistent, you know, product. All right, very good. So that's it, I think, right? We don't have any other groups left to go. On Thursday, we'll talk about pricing of channels and have the exam review, and then the exam will be on Tuesday. So have a good afternoon. Since everybody's now gone, what I do is I evaluate everything in my notes, evaluate everybody, so that I just want to rank you on who did the best presentation, sort of to the end, and then all those grades. So I wait until everybody's turned again, so I'll have grades posted probably by Tuesday for the